When you have a pocket pair in the hole, whether it be deuces or pocket aces, obviously the dream flop is when you flop three of a kind or, sometimes a full house. It's extremely rare that after flopping three of a kind, someone else in the pot is going to have you beat, but quite often your opponents will catch their draw to a straight or flush and crush your set. So, while flopping a set is a very fortunate situation, there are several things to think about when it comes to how hard you should play your hand. There are a few key pointers I'll share with you that should help you decide whether it's better to bet the hand aggressively or to sit back and let your opponents bet for you. Number one, first is flop texture. This is probably the most important variable when deciding what you want to do with a set. For example, if you have pocket kings and the flop comes king, 7, deuce, rainbow, it would probably serve you well to check the flop and give your opponents a chance to catch up a little bit. Since you have two of the kings, it's very unlikely that someone else in the hand has top pair. The only hand you could trap would be someone with pocket aces or a smaller set. But the good news is that if your opponent has any of those hands, you'll likely get all of his chips anyway. Now, what if the flop comes queen, 10, 8 with two of a suit and you have pocket tens? Well, this is what's known as an action flop. 3 cards straight on board as well as a flush draw. Not to mention the fact that players will generally play higher cards that will connect with the board like this. The only hands that could beat you at this point would be Jack 9 for the nut straight and pocket queens, but there are several hands out there that could draw out on you. A player holding King Jack, for example, he could beat you if he catches an ace or a 9. A player holding Ace Jack of hearts, well, he could beat you with a king, a 9, or a heart. With a set in this situation, there's no need to slow play your hand since your opponents will likely call if they have any piece of the board. You should play the hand pretty aggressively. Number 2, type of opponents. If you're playing against the player that will habitually bluff when other players don't bet, then if you flop a monster hand like a set, you shouldn't take that play away from him. You should play coy and check to him. Sometimes you can even check to him on every street and let him bluff all the way. Let's say you had those kings again and the board was king, 7, deuce. If you bet the flop, now the bluffer is probably going to fold since it's highly unlikely that he has much of anything. However, if you check, he might see that as an opportunity to bluff the hand through. Conversely, if you're up against the player who will not bet with a draw, there's just no sense looking to trap him. Bet your set and hope that he found a hand good enough to call you. Number 3, position. Where you're seated at the table when you flop a set will have a big influence on how you should play it. For example, let's say you call the small raise in a 5-way pot with pocket threes and the flop comes king, 10, 3. Since you're the first player to act, you should probably check since it's pretty likely that one of the other 4 guys in the pot are going to bet. Even if a flop comes jack, 6, 3, you should still probably check. If no one bets, well, that's not so bad either. If the turn comes an ace, for example, you'll likely now be able to trap a player with ace, king for even more money. Now, if you're in the last position, everything changes. You'll get a chance to see what everyone does first, so there's really no risk of the flop being checked around. If everyone checks to you, bet. Hopefully someone will think you're stealing and raise you.